ninth season now coming up for you. You're kind of part of the furniture now, if you will. How have things changed for you when you come to the winter meetings in terms of giving input on players, or maybe relaying information from your players to management, like, hey, we think these people would be good fits for the team?
So first of all, I'm one of the old guys now, like in the manager fraternity, especially with all these new hires. But anyway, look, the offseason is more about the front office and all the people involved in player acquisition and things like that. Hopefully I have an important opinion when they come to me and ask me certain things, or, hey, how might you deploy this, or what do you think about this? So those are important conversations to have. Now that I have been here so long and I do know a lot of people in the room, probably easier to have those frank conversations or, give an opinion. But this is an important time of the year, being at the winter meetings and where we're all together, where typically a lot of things get done or the groundwork for things to get done are happening. So I try and, add my input where I think it's needed.
When you look at the roster from last year, Aaron, what do you see as the number one thing you would like to see added to this team to be a better team in 2026?
I just want to get better, and I think every offseason's different. Sometimes you based on what's available out there, what your resources are, what's available in the trade in the trade market, in the free agent market. Like, man, sometimes you sync up with somebody that's adding to a strength. Sometimes, like last year, we were able to plug a lot of holes and fill a lot of needs. So it depends what the off season. I want to get better, and obviously, we haven't reached our goal of winning a world championship, and that's what it's about, and that's what we're trying to get to. And I think the off season, there's a lot of different lanes to go down that you don't know exactly which way, but we expect to be really good. Hopefully, we can get over the top.
As a manager, I know you like to doodle and think about lineups going forward. It's incomplete right now. You have the great luxury of being able to put Judge in a lineup. How would your comfort level increase if you were once again able to have Cody Bellinger right underneath Judge?
Of course. Cody was such a good player for us, such a good person for us, such a good pro. One of the game's really good two-way players and a great athlete. But at the same time, he's earned the right to free agency now, and understandably, I would expect there to be a lot of suitors for him. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Of course, I'd love to have him back just because of the person and the player that he is, but we'll see how it goes.
Let's talk a little bit more about another outfielder. That's Jason Dominguez, still just 22 years old, needs to get better from the right side. People would say that. And Brian Cashman told us yesterday, you need more right-handed bats. So how do you make him progress to that next level? Is it just reps?
Yeah, I say all the time about Jason. You just said it. He's 22 years old. And a lot of his minor league career, he missed a decent amount of time with some real injuries. So experience is a little bit of an issue for Jason. And where does that experience show the most? Well, from the right side of the plate, where you're facing left-handed pitching, where he just hasn't had that many reps, frankly. It's his natural side. I think he has the ability to get there someday. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. I think it's important for him. He went down and he's playing winter ball to get some more at-bats and more reps, and hopefully that's something that serves him well. But he's 22. He did a lot of really good things for us this year. I think he got a lot better in a lot of areas, and the talent is real. And hopefully, he can take another step this year.
Aaron, if the roster remains as it is right now, which it most likely won't, there are a lot of moves that could potentially be made. Can you find him enough at-bats from the right-handed side to give him those reps he needs? And also, from a defensive perspective, how much further does he need to grow in that area out there in the outfield?
I hope so. And hopefully he earns those opportunities more from the right side. Again, it depends what the complexion of your roster looks like, the makeup of your team. And it's at the end of the day, it's the big leagues, and we're trying to win. So as he takes advantage of those opportunities, more of them will be there. What was the other question? Yes.
Defensively.
Oh, defensively.
Some struggles early on,
Yeah.
playing a position he wasn't all that familiar with. Just how does he get better there as well?
So again, it's one part of the equation is an experience thing. Especially going to left field where came up as a center fielder. So we saw some real struggles at the end of the 24 season when he was out there. Even into spring training initially, I feel like his improvement from the end of the season and February to April to July, real progress. And because he's such a really good athlete and because he's so fast and throws well, I do feel like he's going to get to the point where he becomes a really good left fielder. Hopefully we can continue to grow and get him there.
You're going to start the season with no Cole, no Rodon, no Schmidt, but you are going to have a rotation that I think you have confidence in. How much confidence do you have in those other 5 pitchers?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, so you were talking Max, Schlittler, Heel, Warren. We just signed Yarbrough back, obviously, who was a really valuable player for us last year when he was healthy, especially in the first half of the season, like that jack-of-all-trade role. So he may be somebody that starts out in the rotation. You can collapse to the bullpen at some point during the year. We have a number of guys, from a prospect standpoint that are knocking on the door, that are getting real close to being real contributors that we're really excited about. So, and I think, like in Carlos's cases, I think it's going to be pretty quick. It's just a matter of the ramp up and getting his pitch count up. So hopefully that's sooner rather than later. Garrett's doing great, but obviously we don't want to rush him back in. We want him to hit the ground running when he does come back, whenever that is. And then, Clark more for the second half of the season. So we feel like we can piece it together. But, the first few weeks, we'll probably have to be a little creative.
By the way, how comforting does it feel to you that you just say Cam Schlittler's name and he's at the top of the rotation? I mean, when a 7th-round pick comes in and does what he was able to do, how much of an organizational win is that?
Yeah, I mean, you just think about what it costs to acquire really good pitching or even, reliable or back end of the rotation starting pitching. It's a big price tag, and to have young pitchers emerge and become key parts of the rotation, whether that be like a Louis Heel the year before or Will Warren last year, and then seeing what Cam did the final couple months of the season, it's really valuable when they are at this point of their career, and then you can, go fill in other needs in other areas. But we're relying on those guys big time.
Another player who will begin the season on the injured list, Anthony Volpe, coming off that non-throwing shoulder surgery. So kind of a 2-part question. How did that manifest itself in terms of some of the struggles that he had? Because he didn't talk about it a whole lot. Was it like, let's say, at the plate, maybe finding consistency, and then how do you finally get him in that stride where he is that ultimate consistent player? Because he has had those peaks and valleys.
I think impossible to say how it affected him. Look, we were constantly, on top of where he was. So I think physically he was in a good place all season. There were things that aggravated it. He'd dive on it or a certain thing that would aggravate it. But I don't think it was having a major effect on him hitting. Hopefully now getting it fixed will be a good thing for him and serve him well and put him in a better position physically moving forward. But then as far as the consistent, I mean, that's what we're trying. That's what every young big leaguer is trying to do. That's why it's the big leagues. It's, it doesn't, as we saw like with a Trent Grisham last year, 1st-round pick, like it doesn't always just go like this because he's your number 1 prospect. Reality is he's done a lot of really good things. For him to go to that next level as a player, it's going to be about offensive consistency.
Aaron, I know you've been a little all over the place. You were down in Tampa getting in the holiday spirit where you saw Anthony Volpe. So where is he in the rehab process? What has he been telling you? Yeah,
so he's doing well. He was actually he's been up in New York up until last week. So I was seeing him at Yankee Stadium. He's in there rehabbing every day pretty much. And then he came down to Tampa last week to, flip his rehab to down here. And now he'll be here through to spring training. So he's doing well. in the early stages, not able to do a lot. Obviously, not able to do any baseball activities really, but he's in the weight room now, and as you guys know with Anthony, no one's going to outwork him. So, the progress is what it should be.
Aaron, I mentioned the possibility of Bellinger hitting behind Judge. That's TBD. But the reality is that Grisham will probably hit in front of Judge a lot. What was your reaction when he accepted the qualifying offer, and what do you think he brings to the team?
Yeah, I was excited. I think we all felt like it could go either way. I think a lot of people are, saying, can he follow up last season where he was over an 800 OPS? I think so. I think in that neighborhood. I think he's figured himself out as a player, as a hitter. I think some of the defensive metrics, which weren't great for him compared to who he's been throughout his career, which is a Gold Glover, I think he returns to that. I think there were a few factors that happened through the course of the year, especially a month in the middle of the season where he was dealing with a hamstring, where he didn't get some balls. If you watch him every day, he's a really good center fielder. Even last year, watching him every day, he's a really good center fielder. And if he's able to back up, last year's offensive season with another one from an on-base and what he does power-wise, like, sign me up all day for the 29-year-old with a one-year deal to go out and prove it again next year. So we're excited to have him back. He's a big part of our team, and hopefully he can follow up last year with an encore.